This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, Season 12, Episode 12. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network, brought to you by HK. Today is Friday, October 17th, 2025. As of recording of this episode, we are glad to be with you all. I'm your host, Riley Bowman, and I'm joined today by a special guest, Brandon Fisher of Precision Defensive Solutions. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, Riley, how are you doing?
Fantastic. We're so glad to have you on with us today to talk about consistency and layers, a multi-tiered approach to effective self-defense. Brandon's very passionate about this, and so looking forward to a productive discussion with you here today. But first, we got a couple of sponsors we got to mention. It's what makes doing this podcast possible in part. And so first up, we've got our title sponsor of the podcast, which is Heckler and Koch, or HK. We are so appreciative, HK, for their support of the podcast. I'm a HK brand ambassador. I love representing HK. In fact, here very soon we'll be representing HK at a national championship, USPSA national championship. Looking forward to that opportunity again. And so always love shooting my HK pistols. You see, I got several up here on the wall behind me. And Brandon is also an HK brand ambassador. So, Brandon, how long have you been shooting HK pistols yourself?
I think I got my first VP9 in late 2019.
Yeah.
Found one pretty cheap in a gun shop, and I was like, I don't have one of those. Let's try it out. Fell in love with it, and that was, of course, right before they released the 2020 version, the optics ready version, and I was hooked. I've been carrying a VP9 ever since. So,
yeah. For me, it's a little bit more recent. I've been shooting HK pistols like regularly. I started testing because for me that was a bigger jump. I was shooting some other guns in the past. I've shot a lot over the years, but back in 2022, I want to say, is when I started exploring. So I got my first HK pistol. It was a VP9L, and started just testing it out, shooting it. I did that for about 10 months before I was like, okay, yep, I'm making the switch. And so since then I haven't looked back, so we got the HK VP9L is my favorite gun of all, by the way. I love the way it looks, I love the way it shoots, love the way it balances out. The newer A1 series, the K models, which is what you see here, these are the VP9 A1Ks, which is that mid-size 15-round gun. Awesome little gun. I carry that occasionally. And the CC9, of course, which I've got a couple of those, and they are awesome as well. That's my daily carry for me most days now. Very, very happy with the CC9. I think it's a very capable gun for very, very small gun. It's not always the easiest to shoot because of its size. I think it shoots great for its size. But
it absolutely does.
But I know some people are like, yeah, but it's so small. It's harder to hang on to and stuff. I think it's great. I did add some grip texture to mine. I did a custom stipple job on mine, and since then, man, I haven't looked back from that either. Like occasionally I'll pick up one of the other guns here to carry for a carry piece, but I find myself most days just grabbing that CC9 and going out the door.
Yeah.
So
well, and the people that say that those micro compact pistols are not capable, all they need to do is go to my YouTube channel and look at me doing it at a gun con at the HK booth at Range Day at 125 yards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean,
I saw that video, dude. It was legit. Yeah,
it's capable.
It absolutely is. I think out of all the micro compact pistols I've shot over the years, and I've shot a bunch, I've carried others. I've said this of other HK pistols too, by the way, the most accurate micro compact pistol that I've shot. And also my VP9s, VP9Ls, VP9 Match, I've got one of those up there, are also some of the most accurate striker fired guns I have ever laid hands on. That's one of the cool things about these pistols is I never have to worry about the gun, or if it's the gun. No, if there's something not where it should be on target, it's me. Guaranteed, it's me.
Yep, 100%.
Anyway, folks, check out HK. Go to hk-usa.com to learn more. And we're talking very focused on pistols here, but their rifles are awesome too. Of course, they have a
Mhm.
wonderful reputation for the rifles they build. We've got one of the HK 416 22 long rifles in the safe here in the shop, and the thing is a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that. I love that gun.
Yeah, yeah. So great little plinker with the kids, but it's also you can set it up and truly like train with it just on a if you're on a more of an ammo budget shooting
Mhm.
a long rifle, all the controls, everything that are the same. It looks the same as an HK 416. It's awesome. So check them out, hk-usa.com.
Yep.
Other sponsor today is POM Pepper Spray. Uh, I imagine you've got some, Brandon. I've always got mine right here.
Yep.
Uh, and I always make sure I send my family out, my older daughters, and my wife. She goes out for a run or whatnot if I'm not right there with her, because she won't really carry a gun, even though I try to get her to do so. But I make sure I send her out with her canister of POM Pepper Spray, and she's well equipped on using that. And so this I think is just the best stuff out there. Not only because there's other companies out there that make good formulations, but I'm not aware of any other companies that make a great formulation in a very compact, easy to carry size that's also easy to use, that also doesn't or isn't prone to premature or negligent discharges of the pepper
Exactly.
spray. So these are well-designed little pepper spray units. The formulation is excellent, very effective on people, and yeah, that's my choice for non-lethal self-defense. And we're probably talk about some non-lethal self-defense options today, based on my conversation with Brandon. So, anything else you want to add about POM Pepper Spray?
So a couple weeks, I'm going to have a video for you, Riley. I got a guy that volunteered to take a face full of this stuff.
Yeah,
So I'll get that to you.
excellent. All right, I look forward to seeing it. Well, folks, and I didn't mention it, pompepperspray.com, pompepperspray.com. That's the website. You guys can go and pick yourself up some POM Pepper Spray. You can also find it on Amazon. They're a verified vendor or whatever. Like, you can find the legit stuff also right on Amazon. That's a pretty easy way of buying it. And the other thing too, and this is what's also cool, because this is not as readily available from some of the other competing products out there, but POM makes it pretty easy to also buy training units.
Yep.
And that's super, super important. So you don't want the first time that you have to deploy one of these to be actually as you're being accosted, confronted, attacked by somebody. So get a couple of the water trainer units so that you can familiarize yourself with the use, how it functions, what the pattern is like as it launches out there, how far it launches, all of that, so you can get some practice using the trainer units. They're readily available and pretty affordable, and so worthwhile. Just get a couple of the little
Absolutely.
blue water training units. You can buy them right on POM's website. I think they're also available on Amazon. So
Yep.
let's get into our topic for today.
Sounds good.
So, Brandon, you kind of came to me with the concept. You're like, hey, I want to talk about not just carrying a gun. And we've had these conversations on the podcast before, but it's always worth revisiting and coming back to, and also hearing from new folks. I know this is your first time on the podcast,
Mhm.
and so you're a new face for the Concealed Carry podcast audience. So now they're going to get to hear this from a different perspective and hear some different and some new and some fresh ideas. Where do you want to start talking about a multi-tiered defense approach?
So Riley, I have been teaching for more than 3 decades, which is kind of a hard pill to swallow. Honestly, I don't know where the time went.
Yeah.
And I have seen over the years, starting with women's self defense classes, where they come and take a class and do the thing because the thing was going to make them safe. And I started looking at that mindset And as we went through, basic women's self-defense courses and corporate safety and self-defense, and then into concealed carry, I see that trend where everybody does the thing because the thing's going to fix everything.
Hmm.
And years ago, I started looking at that going, no, we need to have different options. We need to look at what is needed in the moment and not more than what we need. Ideally, if we can do less than what's needed, which is never the case, but ideally, then that's great. So everything from an empty hand perspective into a less lethal, into a lethal approach, and looking at lethal approaches of not just the gun, but what else could look, you know, as lethal.
Yes, absolutely. Uh, I've seen the same trend as well. But honestly, if you think about it, it's kind of true in just about any discipline in life,
Hmm.
where I think as humans we're just kind of wired this way. I mean, life in general, it wants to take the easiest path, the most efficient path, which it's like water running downhill. It's like, well, I don't want to make it harder on myself. So, if you have a concern in your life, I mean, I've seen it from people who come through concealed carry classes I've taught over the years, where some kind of s- event has led to them deciding, oh, I need to get a gun. I need to be able to carry that gun. I need to get a permit to carry said gun, concealed especially. And so, and whatever that event was, I mean, just as an example, I remember a student coming to me that she had somebody actually attempt to break into her home.
Hmm.
And so, and fortunately, that was thwarted, and it wasn't, it didn't go terribly bad for her, but it was very, very scary when it did happen, and for the first time in her life, her sense of security is threatened, and she's like, I need to get a gun, and then that started this path of, well, now what? Oh, better get a permit so I can carry the gun, and and then you get this sense, you meet some of these people through the years, and they do that. They get the gun, they take the class, the basic class or concealed carry class, whatever it is, and then it's like, oh, okay, that initial anxiety or whatever it was that led them to do that in the first place is now resolved enough that, okay, back to life, as normal, and that's, that's okay, but that's kind of what I'm hearing from you, is that people are like, well, I got the gun, now I'm good. And, I could solve any problem that, that might come to, my way, because I've got a gun, and so, it's like, okay, yeah, you got the gun and you took a basic class that involved maybe 50 rounds of shooting or less.
Hmm.
And yet somehow now you are going to be capable of handling yourself in, all kinds of situations. uh, I mean, just go spend some time on John Korea's active self-protection, YouTube channel,
Right.
watching how some of those violent attacks and things, home invasions, carjackings, robberies, both in public transitional spaces, also in stores, convenience stores, whatever, gas stations, etc. To go, oh, there's a lot that can happen, and there's a lot of different ways that those threats can present themselves, and and along with that, there's a lot of different ways that those problems can be solved. So anyway, am I on the right track? As are we
Yeah.
tracking together here,
Yeah,
brother?
absolutely. 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 And it's interesting that you brought up the average concealed carry class, because I mean, I've got an RSO that's working with me that's just starting out. Did not take his concealed carry course with us. He started training with us probably 4 or 5 years after he got his permit. He said he spent 2 hours on the range and fired 10 rounds at a
Yeah.
like a 8 to 12 inch circle at 25 yards, Riley, as a brand new shooter. Um, and
All
and
right.
I'm like, so how many of them actually hit the target? How many of them just hit the burn?
Hmm.
At that point. And and that's why people look at me, um, when we do our concealed carry classes, and they're like, well, why is your qualification so difficult? Because there's a lot of problems that you have to be able to solve. We don't do one distance. We don't do one target size. We do multiple, and we do it because I want that decision making.
Yep.
And if, I mean, as well as I do that if we avoid the decision making in training, it doesn't happen in real life. And I think that that's where this multi-tiered approach is from. So, a lot of people start with the gun because, well, let's face it, that's the easiest way of having something to defend yourself with in most people's mindset. It's the idea of it's a great equalizer.
Yep. Exactly.
And I think that because it's so easy and anybody can pick up a gun and press the trigger, it doesn't take, in most people's mind, it doesn't take a lot of time in training. And I think that where we probably need to start is in decision making and empty hand skills. And this was a hard lesson that I learned very young, when I had my first true violent encounter at 14 years old, where, I mean, I won't go into gory details, but it was violent, it was rough, and it literally took putting the guy in the emergency room to put him down. And everything I had been taught in martial arts classes, all these techniques will always work. What it came down to was the basics. How do the basics apply? That's what saved my life. That's what saved my friend's life that was with me that night. And that's where this whole thought started coming from. So now 35 years later, we're looking at it and we're going, okay, so we build a strong empty hand skill set. Okay, let's add to that empty hand skill set. So we look at something like a POM. Okay, and I'll be honest, I haven't been carrying a pepper spray for very much, except for the last maybe 4 years. Now I won't leave home without it. I've had it out 2 or 3 times. Luckily, I haven't had to spray anybody. Just the threat of it was enough to get people to go, nope, I don't want any of that. And it wasn't that it was, hey, I'm going to spray you. It was literally in the motion, and they went back and went, no, not doing it. And it was enough. And the great thing about that is they don't get sprayed. Nobody gets hurt. Everybody walks away. And, and I think that sometimes verbal de-escalation is a great thing, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes physical de-escalation has to be a factor. And we never talk about physical de-escalation, of being able to hit the brakes when it needs to be hit. Because people don't train enough.
100%. I appreciate you starting us off by also referencing, something that happened to you very scarily at age 14, and it caused me to remember that we didn't actually do an official introduction of you yet, Brandon. Although you're kind of doing a little bit of that just through your narrative already. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about now, kind of like, okay, 14 years old, a couple decades ago, something happened. I imagine that was at least a big part now of an influence in your life to get to where you are now, to be as trained as you are now, to have gone through all the courses, certifications, and so forth that you've done up to this point. And I'll kick it off here. I kind of like, how in martial arts, let's use jiu-jitsu as an example. It's a big thing to kind of know the oh shoot, the word just slipped my mind. The lineage, that kind of a person brings with them, the people they've trained with, because that kind of tells you it's a form of credibility that, hey, well, I know that, the Gracie family, for instance, they're they're very legitimate in the jiu-jitsu space. So like if you've trained with somebody or you've trained directly with them or trained with somebody that's trained with them, and like that kind of tells somebody a little bit about who you are. I'm not saying that's necessarily your background. I'll let you do that. But I was
Okay.
just going to mention that you have on your website some folks you've trained with over the years, Masayub, John Correa, and other folks at Active Self-Protection, Brian Hill, Mike Seeklander. I've trained with Mike. Mike's fantastic.
Mhm.
Adam Winch, okay, Craig Douglas, and others. Bill Lewinsky and Forest Science Institute. Those are fantastic courses as well. So kind of kicks us off there a little bit so folks can kind of go, okay, Brandon's trained with some legit people, and let you know that there's some credibility to what Brandon brings to the table. But what other things would you like people to know about yourself?
So this whole journey for me started when I started martial arts when I was 8 years old. So scary thing is next month is my 41st anniversary in the martial arts.
Nice.
It's been a major part of my life. My wife and I still run a dojo, small dojo. We, quality over quantity is kind of our mindset. And as you mentioned lineage, I've got lineage directly back to Okinawa, which is where karate started, and I've got ranking through Japan, and which is cool.
Yeah.
Not many people can claim that legitimately, and it's and having been able to stand on the floors on Okinawa and training with some of those guys is a major thing too. But through that, and if you can't tell, I don't like talking about I'm very humble about my martial arts.
Almost nobody does like talking about themselves, and if they do like
Yeah.
talking about themselves, then you have a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. January this year, I was greatly honored to an old friend that I've known for many years reached out and offered to advance me to 9th degree black belt, which was to me was something that wasn't even feasible when I started. It was just one of those things. Is how do you ever reach that level, of proficiency? And I think it comes down to that level of proficiency of understanding technique, understanding mindset, understanding decision making, and how do we apply those traditional standards to modern needs, which is a big thing with me. It's like when I teach shooting, I don't teach stance, I don't teach posture. I literally show somebody how to balance their body.
Yeah.
And we talk about, we hear a lot of instructors say, well, bend your knees to drop your weight. I don't talk about bending knees. I talk about dropping the hips. And, just at the Active Self-Protection National Conference just last month, I said that, and there was a guy who was a doctor in class, and we're doing the dry fire. And I said that, and he couldn't believe that it actually worked, because he said it didn't make sense to him from a scientific standpoint because it aligned the body so well. And I think that comes from that definitely comes from my martial arts, and I won't say that it doesn't. But that mindset of how do we posture ourselves in a natural state, and I've seen you do it on the range, Riley, where you look like you're standing there, but you don't move. And it's how do we set ourselves so we get the most out of our technique? How do we set ourselves so that we can move? And I think this is part of the level of options is movement, right? So a lot of times we talk about shooting, but we don't talk about movement in that shooting or movement in that attack. How do we remove ourselves even a little bit to put ourselves in a safer position? And I mean, we could talk about that for an hour easy.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those things that I think we have to get to a place where we're training that things interact with each other. So interestingly enough, one of my newest AIs, a lady that we actually met at the range. I was teaching a class that day, and my wife ran into her, and she's trying to look to find different ways to carry. And my wife walked up to her, and she goes, "Why don't you come over here? Let me talk to you about the Filster Enigma." And she had never heard of it. And the guys at the range were kind of steering her in at least the guy she was talking to was steering her in a way that maybe wasn't so great, wasn't so safe. And they started having a conversation. Next thing you know, she signs up for our karate classes because she had been training somewhere else. And she said to me, she said, "I want my empty hand to correspond with my shooting." And I said, "I love that, because that's my mindset when it comes to practical self-defense. Things need to be consistent." And when we look at little things that we do in our decision making, as an example, are we looking, people say, well, we're looking for the threat. Well, are we looking for the threat? Or are we looking at ways that we can avoid that threat? And a lot of times people look for the creepy guy sitting in the corner, in the Walmart parking lot, instead of, are we sitting in our car? Are we taking too much time sitting in a transitional space? Are we not paying attention? Are we on our phone?
Yep.
And we don't look at our own behavior to help avoid, those potential threats.
Yep.
Criminals aren't looking for a fight. They're looking for an easy target, in and out and go.
Yep.
So, so we go back to people taking a concealed carry class. Well, I'm going to get a gun because if I get attacked, I'm going to shoot them. Is that always the answer? No. But that image is a thing. And so we start with things like that. And then we move up into the empty hand. Can we keep ourselves and create distance to be able to escape or switch tools? Well, yeah. And if we're switching tools, are we switching to an OC, or are we switching to the gun? Are we putting a shopping cart in between us, and using a cart as a weapon? I mean, those are things, that I think that when we talk about self-defense, there's so many factors that people don't even consider, and they don't want to take the time to learn. So when I teach a class, I kind of maybe push that image a little bit, and show the why why do we do that?
Well, we want to encourage people to do those things, like exactly what you're talking about. And part of the encouragement comes also from a place where people don't know what they don't know, Dunning-Kruger, where a lot of times folks just getting into the lifestyle, if you want to refer to it that way, of self-defense. And for them, that might just mean getting a gun and strapping it on, but just getting into that, they've never maybe before considered some of these scenarios and situations and things you're bringing up. I mean, like a great example. I mean, I'm just going to highlight the one thing that you just brought up a moment ago. Spending too long, maybe sitting in your car in a transitional space, meaning parking lot, right? Like I either just got done shopping or I've come somewhere to go shopping, and I'm sitting in my car and I'm in a wide open space with all kinds of, there's 360 degrees here to work with, and all kinds of things in that space that can make it difficult for me to see where someone might come from. And you're just hanging out there. You're on your phone, sitting in your car, doing something, like this. And next thing you know, a knock at your window. Oh, where'd you come from? And somebody's right there, wanting to carjack you, rob you, something, and so that's just a great example where most people that haven't trained in this way, haven't thought in this way, have spent most of their life just going about their life,
Yeah,
have never like thought about, oh, by this one behavior that I regularly do, uh, puts me at greater risk of
that's right.
encountering something I don't want.
Well, and I think it goes back to, Dr. April's comment about, accepting that there's evil people there. And I know
Yes.
that's not the exact quote, but I mean, that's a hard thing to accept. But you using that example is a perfect example. So my wife and I uh, went to Georgia back in July. Decided to take our first vacation in 23 years, which was
Awesome.
pretty crazy. Yeah. Um,
I mean,
and
good for you to take the vacation.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But what do? We go to Atlanta. So, and it just so happened that we went to Atlanta because why would I pay attention to events that are going on in Atlanta? But it was All-Star game weekend
Hmm.
on top of multiple concerts going on,
Mm.
um, and we were going to go. We were going to go do some stuff downtown Atlanta and go to the aquarium and things like that, which we don't normally do, but you know and it was so crazy busy we couldn't find a parking
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And so we all of a sudden we got to use the restroom and we're looking everywhere for a restroom and we pull into this gas station that, oh good lord.
Hmm.
I had been at that gas station back in April and I'm like, okay, well it's during the day, maybe it's not so bad. We almost got carjacked in that parking lot and my wife saw it coming and she's like, nope, out, and just hit the gas and gone. um, that avoidance of recognizing that from a distance and that avoidance, that's the best self-defense ever.
Hmm.
It really is. um,
Right.
and I think if we can start, if people start to change their mindset about that stuff, and look at those pre-attack indicators and those cues, all these different cues that we never, a lot of times aren't talked about, at least in a basic concealed carry class. I think it's important, and
Hmm.
and and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I know what my incidents have done to my psyche, and how it's imprinted on me and how it's changed me. And it could have been a case that it could have ruined me, or I could have turned it to a positive and used it to educate others. And that's what I've done. Um, and people like to play the what if, um, game, and constantly, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And my answer to that right off the bat is welcome to the world of self-defense, because everything is a what if.
Mm.
Things don't change by seconds, they change by tenths of seconds.
Yeah.
um, and and people will argue that, and I said, well, look at the research from Force Science Institute, and you look at the human performance standards, you look at what John has done with the videos on active self-protection. I mean, it shows it constantly,
Hmm.
that it's not seconds, it's not minutes, it's tenths of seconds. um, and I think that if we look at those things and we give ourselves time to recognize it, then that opens up a world of options. Um, you know, are we using verbal de-escalation? Are we using physical? Where now we're using an OC to, hey, off, and we recognize that that's enough for them to go, nope, I'm not doing it. Don't want that. Um,
Hmm.
or do we have to go to the gun?
Hmm.
And I will say, from a standpoint of somebody who has had a gun pointed at somebody, in a home defense situation, you don't want to do that.
Hmm.
It never feels good, um, and it's one of those that, because of my patience and my training, it gave us enough time to not take it any further than that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it was a drunk neighbor looking for $5
Mm.
that was getting ready to come through our front window,
Mm.
and hitting our front window so hard it was moving our blinds. So it was kind of one of those things that, with the sound, I knew exactly where he was at. I was looking right at him, and because I could tell from where the blinds were swinging. Patience saved his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know,
Mm. So these are all great examples, and this is great context to, uh, further our discussion here today. If you were to lay this out for somebody, I think you kind of started there, and then I probably, you know, detoured you with some of my comments, questions, and wanting to get you properly introduced and whatnot. Um, but if you were to lay this out for somebody, so let's just say somebody, they're willing to learn, they're
mhm,
interested, uh, there's a motivation there for whatever reason. They come to you and they're like, Brandon, I know I need to get more mindful and prepared about my personal and maybe even family's defense. If you were to lay it out in kind of a, and not that things have to be step by step by step by step, but just sort of like, what are some of the core areas of focus or principles even, or skills that you would say, hey, because you kind of started there, like I said, you're like, hey, I'd recommend people learn about, you know, uh, decision making, and then you kind
mhm.
of, so like, lay it out for us. Give us kind of, what are the core principles here that we should be focusing on?
So I think from a core standpoint is we look at avoidance. So
Yeah.
I think behavioral changes, um, like when people talk to me about home defense, first thing I ask them is, do they have deadbolts on their doors?
Mm.
Do they have an alarm system? Do they have cameras? Do they have things like that?
Do they use them?
And do they use them? Yep. Yep.
Deadbolts. Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, I lived in the country for a while. We didn't lock our door ever.
Yeah,
Um,
I get
and
that attitude. I lived
yeah,
in the boonies as well when I was younger, especially.
yep. And
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things that you didn't have to worry about it,
Mhm.
but when you get into, urban and suburban areas, we need to think about that.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll be honest, we've got a family member that it drives me nuts that he'll lock his back door, but keep the key in the door. And he's got a
Mm.
window in the door, you know. So
Mm.
it's real easy to break the window, reach through, and unlock the door.
Mm.
And it drives me nuts. And I keep telling him, I'm like, would you stop doing that? But the mindset is, well, we live in a safe area, so it's not a problem. And I said, where do you think criminals are coming to get what they want?
Yep.
Because guess what? They don't have anything in their neighborhoods. And it's something that struggle of getting him to change that mindset has been very difficult. Now he
Mhm.
had some issues, and that mindset is starting to change. And that usually is what changes that mindset. So I think that if people are interested in self-defense at all, I think that's where they need to start, is set down with a trainer that is familiar with behavioral things, that is willing to talk to them about behavioral changes and avoidance. Once we start into that, then look at the empty hand. Basic, and I'm not talking about 1 day self-defense classes. I'll say it right here. They don't work.
Mhm.
It's, an hour or two, um, training with an instructor is an hour or two.
Mhm.
How much are you going to develop and be able to apply what they're showing? That instructor may be the very best, greatest grandmaster in the world, but you're not. And you've spent 2 hours with that person. How much can you apply effectively from what they taught you?
Mhm.
But simple self-defense stuff, natural movement. I like to do things of where people will recognize natural movement. So like we have movements that kind of come up this way, right? But how do we do that? Well, that's cover your head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big proponent to closed hand strikes for beginners. Why? Because they're likely going to break their hand, break their wrist, something else. And open hand strikes are more relaxed and end up causing more damage quicker if they're done properly.
Mm-hmm.
So simple things like that, are they reaching for their coffee mug in the morning? What does that look like in self-defense? Well, that can be a grab. They can, grab an ear or an arm or an appendage or something,
Mm-hmm.
How do we apply those things, those simple movements that we do every day to our self-defense? Then if we feel like we absolutely must do a lethal, and I'm a big proponent for people that, if they want to carry a gun and they are able to carry a gun, they should carry a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Living in Indiana, they issue permits at 18. I had my first concealed carry permit when I was 18 years old, and I was carrying a gun. And, I wish I knew then what I know now.
Yep.
But as we all do, but that's where it really started changing for me. Why? I was going back and forth on a country state highway where the typical law enforcement response was 45 minutes away at any time, and going back and forth at night to and from work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things. As we build into that lethal level, when is it feasible? When is it justifiable? Which I'm sure you've had it, just like I think every instructor has had it, where they've had a student, at least one, that looked at them and gone, well, when can I actually apply it? When can I shoot somebody?
Mm-hmm. Don't you love that question? I've gotten that question.
Yeah.
When can you shoot somebody? Wait, you're looking for an opportunity to do so?
It's exactly what goes through my mind. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I just sit there, and I usually, when somebody says that to me, I sit here and go, okay, so why are we having this conversation? Why is it going this way? So I've gotten to the point now that I will tell people right off the bat, if you're looking for that, you're looking for the wrong answer. The answer is, when can we get away from it? When can we avoid it? And are we ready for the aftermath if we have to?
Yeah.
Because people will say, well, that person was significantly bigger than me, and I've got this health condition, or I got that health condition, so I shot them because they were trying to punch me in the face.
Right.
But and I think that's where we go back to now. Once we've done the decision making, the threat recognition, the empty hand self-defense, the non-lethal, and we look at that, we go, okay, so let's look at those behavioral cues, and did we have an opportunity to create some distance? And believe me, I'm not a big proponent for states that require a duty to retreat. I think that's super dangerous on many levels.
Mm-hmm.
But it also doesn't mean that I want people to stand there and risk their life to prove a point. I think that's even more dangerous in some ways. But recognizing when things are truly a life-threatening situation.
Yeah.
And I think that the only way that we do that is continuous training. And this is why one of the reasons I love the videos on active self-protection, because that's daily lessons. Those are daily
Yep.
reps.
Yep.
Even though those videos aren't going to be their fight, and there's going to be elements of them.
Yeah. I've said much the same thing, and I recommend people all the time to watch those videos, to watch the Active Self Protection channel, because you're exactly right that whatever you watch on there is not going to be how your fight goes down.
Yep.
It's not going to be how your fight develops. Uh, but you watch. I mean, how many do they have up on that channel now? Tens of thousands, probably, right? Like it's thousands and thousands of examples you can go and review. And what that starts to do for a person, I liked how you referred to it as a daily rep, uh, meaning repetition, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
practice. Like, and yeah, that's not, you're not actually doing anything physical yourself and practicing these things, but mentally, it's a mental rep. It's like, I mean, I'm very, very passionate about personal defense, concealed carry, all the things we're talking about here today as well. These are things that I I have these conversations with my family all the time, like as we're out and about going places and thinking about things like, "Hey, did you pick up on that dude?" No. Like, okay, this is a lesson for today. Whether it's my a son or a daughter or my wife. Like, you got to be paying attention to these kinds of things, because this is what dad is doing when he's out and about,
You're
you know,
right.
paying attention to this stuff so that we avoid and are not selected as targets. Anyway, very passionate about that stuff. But I love competitive shooting. One, because I'm a competitive person and it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. But one thing that I teach people that, when I'm teaching like a more competition oriented class, um, I teach them the importance of mental repetitions, of visualization,
Yep.
of, okay, here's what you're about to do. Now start going through that in your mind, visualizing it all along the way, step by step by step. First, you're going to do this, then you're going to move here, and you're going to do this, then you're going to move there and do this, then you're going to do a reload or whatever. So like you're running through that in your mind.
Right.
When mental repetitions are done well, meaning that like we do them with a high degree of detail, and also when we're like really internalizing that, like we're putting a lot of focus into it. And I know in the competition situation I'm giving, like it's very much you're internalizing it because you're doing that mental repetition for yourself, because you're about to do that. You're about to shoot that stage.
Right.
I'm now trying to apply that to, this is how I view things like officer involved, badge cam footage,
Mhm.
videos on active self protection, and other things I come across on social media. When I see these kinds of violent encounters take place, uh, I'm trying to put myself in that situation and think through that. Okay, what you're watching this individual that's caught on camera. What are the furtive movements he's making? Okay, what's being said? Um, like what is he doing with his hands? All these kinds of things, right? Are there other actors involved? Are there, like we're focused on the one guy, but is there, what's this person over here doing? Like, and if you do it well, those mental repetitions are valuable. And
Mhm.
then we live in a day and age that is absolutely incredible in terms of the amount of quality information that exists. And by that, again, just on John's YouTube channel, there's thousands of examples you can go and review of how various self-defense encounters took place. And so then what happens is you start building sort of a library in your head of, well, I've seen something like this play out before. I've seen it play out like this. I've seen it play out like that. All kinds of different possibilities and iterations of events that hopefully we can internalize, because we should think through those ourselves pretty deeply. Like, how would that play out if I were the one involved? Would I have picked up on this? Would I have noticed this detail? Would I have, um, would I have involved myself further by escalating the situation? Like that plays out all the time in the kind of road rage incident type videos we see regularly, right?
Right.
People feel like, you know, their 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 reputation, their pride, whatever has been, their ego has been attacked, you know, they've been harmed in some way, like, how dare you cut me off? And now, boy, let me tell you, you're gonna hear from me today. And like over the years, I remember when I was very young, man, I was I don't know if I'd say I was a hothead, but maybe I was a hothead. I don't know. I definitely did not appreciate when people disrespected me on the road. Okay.
Hmm.
And I probably did some things I shouldn't have done. I mean, in today, what I would say about that is uh, I'm talking about sometimes as small a thing as honking my horn at somebody.
Yep.
Like I catch myself all the time. Like there's this desire, like, let me lay on that horn, and boy, let them hear, let them hear this, like, I'm gonna let them have it, kind of thing. And I'm like, wait, I don't know who's behind that will. And I just watched a video on John's channel the other week where, you know, somebody did something like that, and that other dude did not appreciate that. So now we got this going on, and next thing you know, you're in an altercation.
Right.
Cars are colliding, people are jumping out, people are fighting, people are, drawing guns, and so my point all this is this is valuable information, both what you're sharing with us today, but also all these resources that we have at our disposal that can create a library of information and even experience, other people's experience, that we
Right.
can then help and use to inform our own, so that when we find ourselves in situations like, oh, this kind of looks like this thing I saw once, like there's something going on here, maybe I should just turn around and go the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you talking about laying on the horn. My wife's were good at that. Um,
Boy,
and
throwing her under the bus, aren't you?
oh boy, and and I'll tell her, I'm like, you teach in a pretty rough area. Can we not do this, please? You know, I don't want that call of, hey, it's just not a good thing. And she's gotten so much better about it.
Hmm.
But for years, she was another one that when she started teaching in that district, it, it was such a
Hmm.
culture change for her, because she grew up in a suburb mindset, and now she was
Yep.
this, I don't want to say that she was a naive young girl, but she was. I mean, she had never seen true violence in her
Yep.
life. And then all of a sudden, she's got students who are showing up to her seventh grade classroom with ankle monitors because they had committed felonies at 12 years old.
Yeah.
And and that has changed her perspective greatly, to the point where now she's got her process of how she carries, and she carries every day. Of course, she can't take it into school, unfortunately.
Right.
Um, but she has it accessible to her, when she's driving, where it's not accessible to others, and nobody can see it because she hides it really well, but it's right, honestly, right by her hand.
Hmm.
It's literally
Hmm.
reaching over the console, because we found a seatbelt hook that we latched to a holster, and she pops it in there, and it locks into place, and it's not one of those, under the steering wheel or on the column or anything like that. It's secured, but she can get to it really super quick.
Hmm.
And it's that accessibility, is there, but her mindset had to change first.
Hmm. Yeah.
And and it's kind of interesting that conversation, because we talk about, so many people teach technique, and I have gotten away from teaching set technique, even in my martial arts classes. Even as a traditional martial artist, I don't teach set technique. I teach concepts
Hmm.
and application. I do the same thing in our shooting. We talk about dry fire. Everybody, dry fire is a big thing now. But when we look at traditional martial arts, people say kata doesn't work. Well, guess what? That's what dry fire is.
Mm-hmm.
If we apply it correctly, that's where it comes from. So, and that's my approach is working concepts and application of those different concepts. Because if we take a concept, we can apply it so many different ways. If we take a technique and we say, okay, this only works here, how many ways do we apply it? One.
Yep.
And
Yep. I'm right there with you, brother. That's something that I recognized, years ago when I started rebuilding my curriculum. Was my old curriculum was very technique focused, and that's just because that's how I came up in the industry, in the space, of, well, this is how you do things, and but I had to go back to the drawing board and kind of revisit what and how I was teaching things, and it is so much. I'll tell you, it takes, I think, the stress off of me, and I think it takes the stress off of students too, to just focus on principles and concepts of here's the end goal we're looking to achieve. All right. And here's some principles or concepts that help get us there. Now, the specifics of exactly how you do that, I want you to do it the best. I mean, I want you to do it the way that works for you. Because if I try to show somebody like, this is how I grip a pistol, then I remember the first time I encountered this, I'm like, this is how I grip like this. This is years and years ago. And then I had a student that had arthritis, like really, really bad. And their hands are like, just, they don't work like my hands do,
Right.
And they're like, well, I can't grip and hold the gun like you do. That's a good point. Well, we better find a way to, to make it work for you. And so, especially with things like grip now, I'm very much, I give 3 simple principles of grip. Like, if you can do these 3 things, and it's all based on how high you grip on the gun. Okay. So that's number 1. Okay. So grip the gun high on the grip so that you lower that bore axis relative to your hand. Number 2, make sure you applying good leverage to that grip, getting good grip pressure, but not only that, but in the right spots, especially like pinky pressure, because that's going to help with leverage. And number 3, make sure you're getting good contact on the gripping surface of the gun. So, and maximizing all that gripping surface as best you can. Beyond that, I don't care how you do it. If you grip a certain way and I look at it and I go, that's kind of weird looking, but you're like, but look, I'm gripping high, I'm applying leverage, and I have really excellent grip contact. Then I'm like, cool, bro. I mean, do your thing, man. Like, and then the other thing, of course, is, does it show results on the target? Yeah. Okay, cool. Do it your way then, because when you look at so many different good shooters out there and realize, like, they grip differently, they grip differently, they grip differently, they grip differently, it's like, there's something to this. They're all really, really awesome shooters and instructors, but they all grip a little bit differently. So there's more to it than just a specific technique. So I appreciate you sharing that. And from the context too of your background, very, very deep and broad background in martial arts, like how you said, kata doesn't work. It's like, yeah, I did a little bit of martial arts when I was younger. I should get back into it, but time being a thing. But I should. Anyway, did a lot of kata when I was younger, and you're like, why are we doing this again? But looking back now with the wisdom of a couple of decades, like, I can see where that was going. What my instructor, what he was trying to get me to do and learn. So,
well, and see, that's the thing, is so many times people have gotten away from the application, the true application, and done set things. And that was not the original purpose. The original purpose was, look at the concept, make it work for you. And it's, and I think that we're in this trap in the firearms world too, where it's, I'm really good at this, so you have to do it my way. Well, like you said, until you get somebody that literally can't.
Mm.
right? So like, I mean, you know me, my pinky fingers are super short, right?
Mhm.
I can't grip the gun like you do because my
Mhm.
pinky finger does not reach all the way around the grip. Doesn't matter how big the gun is. Even
Right.
the CC9, I can't get my pinky finger all the way around it.
Mm.
So I have to get my hands connected to that gun differently to
Mhm.
control it. And when I shoot fast, people are like, well, there's no way you're seeing your sights. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm seeing my dot every time.
Yep.
And they're like, well, how? I said, because it doesn't come out of my window.
Mhm.
It's all in that, and it's all in that connection. It's all in that stability. So when we take that concept from a range perspective, or taking it way level up into a competition perspective, which I really need to get out and do that one of these days.
It's fun.
Yeah, I need some time.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly, right?
yep. Um, but it's, how do we move with that and apply it? And I think that's where the top tier is when it comes to self-defense, is how do we take all those concepts that we practice in dry fire, we practice in on the mats, we practice in live fire range, just in a stall. How do we apply that thing to real life? And that's a gap that is hard, because at least in the martial arts, for those that like to do free sparring, you can free spar, um, but we can't do that with live guns, right? And how much force on force stuff is out there, and
Yep.
how good is it?
Yep. Yeah.
Because there's people that are trying to do it, and God bless them, but they're
Mhm.
missing elements of human performance that I think are critical, and that communication of, you know, somebody actually yelling at you and coming back, um, whether you lock up and you can't respond, you're still hearing it, and it's still causing a reaction in your body. And I think that as we start getting at those higher tiers of self-defense, when we can work through that,
Mhm.
that's a big thing. I'll give you a perfect example. And I don't want to give away the secret here. So I'm gonna try to be vague on this. But I was taking a class uh, in uh, in August, um, and they're running a scenario drill. And as we run into this scenario where we've got multiple picture targets, now with my vision issues, seeing 2D targets and recognizing what's on pictures can be difficult. When I
Mhm.
see things 3D, much different.
Mhm.
Um, Plus the physical cues, the verbal cues, things like that come with self-defense. Well, the first target I approach, I look up, and the shape of the person, their hand size, everything that I recognized gave me serious pause.
Mhm.
Now, didn't draw a gun, um, because honestly, at first I had to look to see what exactly was in their hand. Okay. And it was a phone, so it was an absolute no shoot. But the problem was hair color, shape of the head, shoulder structure, hand size, everything was just like the guy that attacked me when I was 14.
Mhm.
Where did I go?
You're back to when you were 14.
Yep. And it gave me serious pause, and I started stepping backwards and out, and one of the instructors that was there, um, he's like, well, you know, you got to keep going. And I'm like, I can't. He's like, but you have to. And I said, I can't.
Mhm.
And those are things that, because of that pause, it screwed me up for the rest of the day.
Mhm.
I mean, it took me about 3-4 hours to literally circle back. And, and I'm a person that, uh, I don't, I don't take my gun off. I keep my gun on me. The only time I don't is if my doors are completely locked.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a case that I literally walked over to the car, put my gun in the car, and I'm like, I don't even want it on me right now, because I wasn't in a mindset that it was safe for me to have that gun on me.
Mm.
And how many people can recognize that and go, okay, what caused that? Why did it happen? And be able to articulate it right after.
Mm.
Right. And that's one of those things that through that scenario, it was like, okay, big pause. Well, then we went through, I walked through it with my wife, and she did pretty well with it. But I mean, there's still, anytime you're doing a simulated scenario, there's factors. Even if you're looking at scaled targets, the distancing, things like that, all has to play a part, and it makes training scenarios like that very, very difficult to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably $1 million idea if somebody can figure out a way to do it. But
Right.
man, I've been trying to do it a long time, and it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that level of training, when we look at self-defense, is where we need to go with it, right? If we carry a pepper spray every day, we need to utilize one of those trainers, like you mentioned earlier, as an option. If we carry a gun every day, then we need to utilize that as an option. We need to use those verbal skills. We need to learn, and we need to have feedback on those verbal cues. Not just sitting there going, okay, we're talking about it, but if we're just yelling at a paper target, are we really getting the full value of that rep?
Right.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that I've done with some of my advanced courses is we'll have somebody stand behind them, and literally yell at them like they were coming at them. And we're still using paper targets, but and I don't tell people that they have to respond to that, verbally. They have to do what they're naturally going to do, because they need to discover how they're going to react to it. And I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, we don't get a verbal response.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's, we did one time, we took 2 short cuts of 2x4 and clapped them together to simulate gunshots.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see somebody react hard, add stress and simulated gunshots, and it's amazing what happens. The rate of fire when they did it went up significantly. Problem is, they didn't hit squat.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I think that as we look at those multiple tiers, we have to look at the training, and we need to take our mindset. We need to take our bodies in a place that is not normal and is uncomfortable. But you got to do it. You still got to do it in a safe space and with people that you trust.
100%. Well, this is great advice. I'm going to ask one more question, as to kind of be a wrap up of sorts, I guess, and that is, what would you say as advice for folks listening or viewing to be more consistent in their training?
Train on a regular basis. Train on a regular basis. If you start martial arts, I value that greatly. The problem is there's a lot of, we've all heard the term McDojo. Be careful of those, because they're out there. They're not after teaching you something. They're out there looking for your money. And they will give you an impression that you are developing skill that is not necessarily there.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, sometimes the very best instructors are the guys that are hidden. That's my very, very best advice when it comes to that. And I think that a lot of times, even in the firearm space, some of the best instructors are the ones that are hidden. You know, they don't put themselves out there. And you know, some of those guys, just like I know some of those guys, and they're top tier instructors, but they don't fly that flag. And I value that very, very much, more than the people that are, hey, look at me. I am more of the mindset of find the people that won't do the, hey, look at me, see what they've got to offer you, and go and train with them. You know, and go and train with them. And you train with that person until you can't get any more out of them. When there's no more to learn, then move on. I think there's some cross-training elements that I think are good. Having good I tell you, I learned more in sitting around a table from some of these self-defense experts than I have on the floors or on the ranges.
Yeah.
You know, and just having a good conversation.
Yep.
You know, I mean, one of the first conversations I ever had with you, sitting at the national conference in the dining room, you know, and we were, you know, there were a couple of us just sitting there talking. I got more out of that conversation than I've ever gotten on anything.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways too. That's the thing too, is I think this is not something that's necessarily really talked about in the firearms training space, but even if you're not an instructor type, you should have conversations with people about whether it's shooting or self-defense or empty hand skills, whatever it is. Like, you can have these conversations with people, because even if it's just you trying to explain something, by being forced to articulate something that, I mean, you may very well understand it very well, but you maybe never tried to explain it to somebody else. And there's a lot of learning that occurs when you do that. And then, of course, when we can have a two-way back and forth of me trying to articulate something I understand and somebody else trying to also articulate what they understand, including if maybe they don't understand as much as you do about a particular subject. And so maybe some of that is them asking questions. And again, you're having to respond to that. Like, there is this two-way learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm going with that is I remember that conversation, Brandon. I don't remember exactly the specific. You might remember better than me, but I just remember, like, I remember that conversation. I remember walking away and be like, that was cool. That was fun. You know, like, everybody gets something out of that, you know, and that's something that could probably be encouraged more often, to just set up opportunities to discuss and converse and share and even sometimes debates are good too, when they're done productively and respectfully, right? Because the exchange of ideas, I did some debate in high school, and I enjoyed that, because it forced you to think, you know, and you take a position and you got to figure out how do I explain this position? How do I back it up? You know, and that's kind of, my wife gives me crap about it all the time, because she's like, I hate arguing with you, because you always like come at me with, you know, I have a position and I'm always prepared with point 1, point 2, point 3, you know, like, here's what backs up my position, you know, and that aggravates her at times.
Oh, I'm sure. I get it. Yep.
So
And
it's a little bit tongue in cheek. We have you know, nobody's marriage is perfect, but we've learned a lot over the years, and we've had some doozies of arguments, and we've had some too where we just end up laughing because of crap like that, where she's just like, you know, she calls me out on my bull crap, like, you
yep.
know, stop trying to debate with me, stop trying to win this argument, which is a fair point. It's not always about winning. It's about not necessarily proving that you are the best or the strongest or the fastest or the smartest in the room, but that you want to share ideas back and forth two-way.
Yeah.
Sorry, bumping the camera here. So anyway, good stuff, Brandon. I hope folks got a lot out of this discussion between you and I here today. I feel like they should have. If they were listening and paying attention, they would have got a lot out of it. Brandon, where can people find you? If they want to connect with you directly or learn more, where can they find you?
So, like you said, my company's Precision Defensive Solutions, based out of Twinsburg, Ohio. So we're up in the Northeast Ohio area.
That's pretty close to Cleveland, right?
Yep. Yep. We're actually between Cleveland and Akron.
Yep.
So when you were in Youngstown, we were only an hour away from there.
Yeah.
We're pretty close. You can reach me through the website primarily, which is www.n as in Nancy, C as in Charlie, P as in Paul, D as in David, A as in Anthony.us, so ncpda.us. You can get a lot of stuff there. I check my emails multiple times a day. And reach out to me, because I love talking to people about this all the time. And I'm gonna do a little plug, if you don't mind, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So November 1st, we're doing an HK demo up here.
Awesome.
We're gonna have a whole bunch of stuff out there. So definitely come out and see us. Shoot some pretty cool guns, and might have an SP5 and a MR556 A4 out there. So
Nice.
have some fun. Definitely go out, try those things out, connect with us, talk to us. I love having these conversations. I really do. And the only sad thing is that we're limited on time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yep. That is a true fact of life.
Yep.
And so, as all good things, it must come to an end, and therefore this episode comes to an end. But we can always do it again.
Yeah,
Brandon, it's been a pleasure having you on. I look forward to the next time we have the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Riley.
Yeah. So keep doing good work out there, brother, and I look forward to sharing the range with you again soon.
Yep,
Folks,
it's been a while. Yep.
A reminder of our sponsors of this episode today. We had HK up as our sponsor and our title sponsor of the podcast, hk-usa.com, and POM Pepper Spray, pompepperspray.com. Check those folks out. Check out our sponsors, and you don't have to buy anything from them necessarily. I mean, we certainly appreciate that when you do, but share that around with folks that are looking for quality gear, quality equipment, or even share this podcast with people. And we thank our sponsors for making everything we do here possible. So thank you to them. Thank you to Brandon. Thank you to all you, our viewers and listeners. And so with that, we bid you adieu until next time. A reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.